Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Hey everyone, this is Syntax, and welcome to my first explanation video in what, like 6 months, give or take? I'll talk about where I was more toward the end of the video, but for now, I'm back. I'm better than ever, or something like that. Anyway, I know you guys saw the Bad Parenting intro remake that I posted for Halloween, but I wanted to do something just a tiny bit bigger for, I guess, my quote-unquote comeback video, and that's where this comes into play. For those of you that don't know, this animation I made is based off of a game called Buckshot Roulette. It was super popular on TikTok and with streamers. I think it's since fizzled out, but it stayed in my mind pretty much this whole time. Basically, the game is just Russian roulette, except with a shotgun, and it's only you versus the dealer. As the game advances, you receive more and more items that sort of help you decide whether or not you want to shoot yourself or the dealer, and the end objective is just to beat the dealer, and that's it. Now, I knew I wanted to make an animation because I wanted to see if I had what it took still to model the stuff that's in the game and see if I could still animate, which, spoiler alert, I can. Part of me still wants to make it into a map. I probably won't, because I feel like that's a speed run to the banhammer, but we'll see. You know, who knows what could happen. Anyway, since I spent around 10 hours modeling and keyframing things for an animation that lasted 34 seconds, I figured why not make a video for a behind the scenes on how I actually did it. Now, of course, like an idiot, I didn't record any of the process, but if you are curious on how I actually managed to create and animate all those things, that is what this video is here for today. Anyway, without further ado, this is how I remade Buckshot Roulette using the Unreal Engine for Fortnite. The first thing I did before actually animating anything was, of course, make all the props that I was gonna need for the animation, starting with the shotgun. Now, I could have started with the table, but if you notice, the shotgun in the game actually sits within this circle on the table, so I figured if I got my shotgun the size that I needed it, then I can build my table according to the size of the shotgun, which is exactly what I did. Now, the shotgun was comprised of 4 main pieces. You have the full body, which compared to the M16 I built a while back was incredibly easy to build. Then, of course, you have the tip of the shotgun, which originally was just a part of the main full body until I later realized I wanted to recreate the sawed-off shotgun from the game, so I went ahead and detached it from the main body. The third piece of the shotgun is what you would use to chamber around if it was like an actual shotgun. It's where your left hand would go if you're right-handed, and I guess your right hand would go if you're left-handed. It's this little slidey part on the front of the gun. And then the last piece of the shotgun, which once again, I don't know the technical name for it. It's that little metal piece where the shell gets ejected, the latch, if you will. And that was, of course, the easiest thing to build out of everything. Once the shotgun was finished, I moved on to making the table, which is just a 1-to-1 replica of the one in game, which I mean, technically everything here is, but the table was easier than I thought it was going to be. All those little white lines that you see on the table, those aren't drawn in or anything. That's not a material. Those are all their own little separate rectangles, which was a little bit annoying, but it ended up looking pretty cool, so I can't complain. After the table was finished, I moved on to the magnifying glass, which was essential to the animation, but probably the easiest thing I've ever built. Took about 15 minutes, and that was that. After that, I moved on to the slightly more complicated hand saw. There were some pretty tricky shapes in there, but it ended up looking super good, so I was incredibly happy with the end result. And of course, in the animation, there is an open version of the handsaw. Spoiler alert, I didn't actually flip open the blade, it's just 2 separate meshes, so sue me if you want. The last thing I built was the handcuffs. They weren't used in the actual animation, but they are in the game, and they did sit on the table and look pretty, so they did their job as far as I'm concerned. From start to finish, all of that took around 6.5, maybe 7 hours, which I don't know if that's slow. It probably is compared to what people can do in other apps, but I don't care. It was quick for me. Anyway, I had everything built, which means the only thing left to do was to animate it, which, yeah, easier said than done for sure. If we go ahead and open up the animation here, which, first of all, as I got farther and farther in the process, these meshes would do the weirdest spazzy, glitchy movement thing that I had no idea how to combat. I would just keep opening the animation over and over again until eventually, after their weird spazzy trip, they ended up in the correct spots. So if you have any idea what that's about, please do let me know. Anyway, my whole plan going into this animation was as follows. The animation was going to start with the character looking up at the dealer, looking around a little bit, and then looking over at the magnifying glass. You were then going to interact with it, throw it away, and then check the round in the chamber, which is what you would do in the game. After seeing that it's a live round, I was going to go ahead and pan the camera to the saw. You're going to inspect it, use it to cut off the tip of the shotgun, and then shoot the dealer. Very simple in my head, of course, but it was hardly a simple process. As you can see, these are all the individual working parts. All those props that I was talking about beforehand, besides the table and the handcuffs, have their own little role within this animation. Oh, I forgot to mention that I also did make both a live round and an empty shell casing for the animation, which those were easier than the magnifying glass, so that's probably why I forgot. But yeah, those are also here. Anyway, for the first 5 or 6 seconds, the only thing that's happening is the camera is panning. Super easy, just setting key points to make sure it looks certain directions, and then we go ahead and pick up the magnifying glass. In the actual game, you smash the magnifying glass and then stab it into the table. I didn't want to make a broken version of it, so I just have you throw it away. If you notice, I actually make the camera jerk a little bit to the left to make it seem like you're going to throw it harder. I sort of regret not giving the magnifying glass more momentum because it looks like it's lagging behind and kind of silly, but oh well. Now remember, this animation is taking place all within the confined view of this camera, so the magnifying glass actually just goes slightly out of view. As you can see, it's just sort of sitting right here off to the right. After you throw away the magnifying glass, you go ahead and pick up the shotgun. Now remember how I said that the shotgun was comprised of 4 individual pieces? Now the reason for that, in case it wasn't already clear, is because all of those pieces are going to have to move within the animation, and if they are part of the base shotgun, I can't animate them on their own. So how this works is the body of the shotgun is sitting on the table, and the tip, the latch, and the pump are all their own separate pieces, but they are attached to the body. How this works is wherever the body of the shotgun travels to, those pieces will follow it exactly. However, if you add them individually to the sequence, you still have control over where they go as well. After I throw the magnifying glass away, I bring the body of the shotgun up to where I want it within frame of the camera. Once I have the shotgun where I want it, I now have free reign to control those individual pieces of the shotgun I was talking about. So I animate the latch, the pump, and a hidden bullet within the shotgun to be pulled back, brought into view, and then pushed forward. If the pump and the latch and that bullet were all part of the shotgun originally, I couldn't animate them individually. So as long as they're attached to that body and I have control over them individually in the sequence, then I can do whatever I want with them. And what's great about that is once I'm done moving those pieces, they stay attached to the shotgun. So once I'm done looking at the round in the chamber, I just put the shotgun back on the table and all those pieces follow. Anyway, we use the magnifying glass, throw it away, pick up the shotgun, check that there's a live round in the chamber. Once we've confirmed that, shotgun goes back down, and now it's time for the handsaw. Now this part's kind of funny because you pick up the closed handsaw and inspect it, and then you throw it down out of frame, okay? It doesn't go very far, it just sits right here. Now the open version of the handsaw is actually under the table this entire time. So as soon as that closed handsaw goes out of frame, boom, the open handsaw is right there to replace it. Then of course, after you've quote unquote opened the handsaw, you pick up the shotgun and you start sawing it, which this was a pain to get in the proper position, but it ended up looking so cool. Remember, the tip of the shotgun is its own separate piece, so after I saw it for a second, I can go ahead and just animate it to have it move wherever I want. Now, the problem with it being attached to the body of the shotgun is it actually stays attached, so even though it's no longer in frame, it still kind of moves around, which with a wider angle looks really awkward. Anyway, I go ahead and make sure that the tip of the shotgun is sawed off and falls down low enough to remain out of frame for the rest of the animation, because if you did see it flying around, it would look really bad. In the actual game, after you're done sawing the tip of the shotgun off, you place it back on the table and then decide whether or not you want to shoot yourself or the dealer, which you would never shoot yourself after sawing it off because it does double damage. But anyway, I just figured I would skip that whole thing and have you point it directly at the dealer. I recreated the shake that you see in game before you actually shoot it. You fire it and he flies backwards. And that's the whole animation. Actually, I lied, that's not the whole animation. My favorite part about this whole thing is actually kind of funny. After you're done shooting the dealer, you go ahead and pump the shotgun, and there's this little shell that flies out of that latch part we were talking about earlier. Now this shell actually also sits under the table. It's right next to that open handsaw, and as soon as you're halfway through pumping the shotgun, it sort of flies up into place, kind of where I think it would sit if this was actually like a proper animation. And then I have it fly out onto the table, and as the shotgun gets put back down, you can actually see it roll on the table. And I don't just mean that it rolls in one specific direction, it actually behaves like a shotgun shell that had a metal part and a plastic tip would. The metal part sort of stays in place and it rotates around that. I don't know. It's a super dumb detail, but I thought it was super cool. All in all, I think it's a couple hundred keyframes with everything put together. It certainly wasn't as much of a pain as that Lego Crackshot was, my god. Anyway, for about 10 hours of work, I think the whole thing turned out pretty incredible. This was mainly just a test to see if I still had it, and it turns out I do. So yeah, that's Buckshot Roulette inside UEFN. Can you believe it? Now, genuinely speaking, I am still seriously considering making this like a playable 1v1 roulette type map. The problem is, Epic does not like pew-pewing yourself or other people with realistic looking weapons, and they especially do not like roulette. I was thinking maybe I could have it so that you're shooting lights that are on display, and if you run out of lights, then you lose the game, but it would be difficult to pull off, to say the least. It would also be incredibly complicated, so it probably won't happen, but it is a proof of concept, and I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, that's everything I have for you guys today. Before I go, I do want to semi-address the elephant in the room, if you will. Obviously, I took an incredibly long break from anything Fortnite related. It turns out when you have rent to pay and other bills to pay, it's difficult to properly find time for this thing, and I severely underestimated that when I moved out about a year ago. Luckily for me, I'm back home, so there's no more rent to be due, and my creative spark is as high as it's ever been. So maybe it was a necessary break. Hopefully it doesn't hurt me too much in the long run, but I would like to be back for good. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to create maps because the stuff that these people are doing is so insane, so I'm not sure if I can keep up in terms of the map building space, but artistic stuff like this, videos like this, I really enjoy doing stuff like this, and this sort of reminded me how much I enjoy doing it. So I'm hoping I'm back for good this time. I promise I will not go anywhere again. Anyway, that really is everything that I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a comment, and yeah, this has been Syntax. Later.